Morning, guys. I'm Dave Canterbury with Self-Reliance Outfitters in the Pathfinder School. Coming to you today from the Self-Reliance Outfitter store here in Indianapolis. And I've got a couple guests with me today. I've got Jim from Rite In The Rain, and I've got Jeb from TogetherMade. And what we're going to do today is we're going to show you a couple very nice projects that are kit-style projects. And these are things that we're working on in collaboration with these two fine companies. But we wanted you guys to see firsthand, kind of behind the scenes, how these things are put together, hear us talk about it, and hear Jeb teaching us the tips and tricks of how to put this thing together and really make it look awesome. So stay with us.
So just a quick background on TogetherMade as we get going. Our goal is to get people making heirloom quality goods. To do that, we've sourced high quality materials. So we've got a veggie tan leather for this project that comes out of Wickett and Craig in Pennsylvania. It's beautiful stuff. It's gonna last a lifetime. Everything here is USA made, and it shows in the end result. And we're gonna tag team on the Pathfinder kit. So we'll get going.
Jim, you want to talk a little bit about Rite In The Rain for a minute and kind of let people know your hand in this project?
Yeah, of course. I think what's important to know about Rite In The Rain, we make weatherproof paper, and what you write down in here or what you have written down in this notebook will last a lifetime. And it's an awesome candidate for this type of collaboration, because what Jeb comes up with is this heirloom quality, lifetime lasting premium leather cover. And so that accessory will last you, but also everything that you've written into it on our paper, rain or shine, you bring it out in the elements. If this gets muddy or anything spills on your Rite In The Rain notes, that's what we make our product for. It's okay. You can take it out in the bush. If something happens to your Rite In The Rain, I wouldn't worry about it.
I've actually ran one of those through a washing machine.
Yep. That happens.
So it was fine.
Yeah, you just use a pencil or a ballpoint pen. You don't got to use a special pen or anything. And tumble it through the wash, even with the detergent. Also, the pens themselves. The pens are pressurized, so they don't, like, if you leave them in your jeans and you run them through the wash, they're not gonna pour ink out all over. So, just in general, like whatever you want to do to these, like bring it on. That's why we make them.
All right, get it started, Jeb.
All right, so here's yours. We'll put that away, and we'll see how we do on the next one. All right, so I'm just gonna kind of go through what's in the kit. And this is a forming tool we'll use later to get the pocket looking perfect. I'm just going to move some of this stuff out of the way. So we're going to open our kit up and get our Pathfinder Journal Kit. By Rite In The Rain. I made a stamp for everyone. It turned out pretty cool.
That's beautiful.
Yeah. So what we got here is all the leather pieces. So this is our main cover here. So you're going to start sewing on that one. And then what was inside there was a little tin of Phoebing saddle soap that we're going to use to finish. This little tool that I came up with, it's a leather slicker, and they come in different shapes, but what we're going to use that for is to burnish the edges, give them this kind of rounded over glazed look. That's in every kit. And we've got this Rite In The Rain notebook. The spiral bound, which fits in here awesome. There's a couple other Rite In The Rain products that fit in this size as well. So some of the kits may come with others over time. This thread is wax poly, and it's pretty thick stuff. So it's super strong. So we'll kind of go over how to use that. There's a set of harness needles in one of those hanks of thread. And these are CS Osborne. They come in packs like this, if you're curious. It's the 517-0 18 gauge. it's the one that I've just found to be the most comfortable to sew with, and you can really kind of get after it with it. It's not as strong as, say, the sail needles that you guys sell,
Sure.
but for these fine holes,
Different process.
it's different process. So there's our journal we'll come back to. Then underneath here is some sandpaper, and the sandpaper is used to round out the insides of the slicker. Basically, the slicker is used to shape the side of the product. So that's everything that's in there. The standard kits are also going to have illustrated step-by-step instructions. This is a one-off, and so we'll give it to you straight. But the instructions are printed on Rite In The Rain paper. They're waterproof, illustrated step-by-step. So all these little stitches we do, you'll be able to just look at the pictures. So we're going to start on that one. I'm going to get them going on how to attach the needles. Step here is we're going to unwind these little threads. And these threads are wound by a group of kids at a school nearby in their special education program. It's an intern
cool.
program. Yeah, so we're lucky to have those guys, and they come out and deliver these threads to the shop once a week, and it's a sweet collaboration. All right, so here's the deal. We're gonna get this thread through the needle, and this stuff's pretty thick. This is about as thick as you're gonna get through these needles. You pull about 6 inches through, and then about 2 inches from the end, what you're gonna do is you're gonna poke the needle through the middle of the thread. I do it between my fingers because I find it easier to just kind of slide it between my fingers because it holds the thread in place, but we're piercing the thread about 2 inches from the end. So now what we do,
Says you.
I've done it a few times. Yeah,
Yeah,
you got it?
I didn't do that yesterday.
Oh, you didn't? Huh, I'm curious what you did.
I'm curious.
Just left it hanging.
Yeah.
Interesting. Okay, so I was wondering about some of those instruction readings.
I didn't read them. That's the problem.
Yeah, well, there were pictures.
like
Okay,
IKEA
so
furniture.
you take it, now it's pierced, and now you slide that end over, back over the eye. Okay, so you slide it down over the eye, and then you pull it tight. And so what that did, I'll do it again in one motion, but what that did is that locks it on there without a knot. So when you're going through all these holes, you don't have the resistance. And this is waxed, so that also provides some lubrication as you're going through there. It keeps it flowing. So I'm gonna do it one more time on the other end. So the saddle stitch, what we're doing is we're effectively going through the same hole from both sides. So we've got a needle and then trapping the leather. So we've got a needle on each end of the thread. So we're gonna put one on the other side. So again, I'm going through.
Yeah. Thanks.
Okay, so I pull my 6 inches through, I'm poking, yeah, you got it. Poking through, sliding over, pulling tight. Now we're good. All right, so he's gonna start, he's gonna start by sewing the rear pocket on. And what I have to do is I have to sew these little pockets first before I attach it. So here's your pocket. One little thing before we get sewing, and this is just a finish thing, is for any of the edges that are going to get sewn down, you won't be able to come back and slick them because they're going to be, you can slick the outside edges because they're exposed, but the interior ones you can't. So if it were me, what I would do now is I would slick these edges. This is not in the instructions because it's just a whole bunch of extra steps at the front, but for finish quality, you'll see how we do the slicking later. And if, when you're doing your kit, if you want to do this step, what you do is you slick these edges, and we'll go through what that technique is, and this edge first before you start sewing, because then when it's sewed in, you've got this finished edge. So that's just a little tip.
So should we do that?
Yeah, if you want. Slickers come in all kinds of different shapes and sizes. So the one that comes in our kit, I make in our shop, but you might see one, since we're not going to sand that one out, you might see one that looks something like this. Well, you buy these kits, you don't need that tool because you got one of these in it.
So that's the cool thing about this kit. It's pretty much all inclusive.
Yeah, the only
They're not going to have to buy any leather tools. They're not going to have to fish around the internet for the stuff they need to finish this project. It's all in the box.
And that's the idea, right? Is that I wasn't a leather worker. I was a woodworker, and I started making these leather projects, started with wood projects, and I just fell in love with it. Like, it's just really fun. But in order to get tooled up to build something like this, it would be super expensive. Same with the wood. That's why I started TogetherMade in the first place. Is you don't need a full shop. You don't need all the tools to have the experience of making something that's super high quality. And you don't need years of experience either. You know, you did it on your own from the start. You have
Yeah,
some
and I have no
experience.
idea what I'm doing.
Well, so
Just kidding.
the only thing that's not in the kit is a rag. And turns out that you didn't need a rag.
I just use my hands and
Use
my
your
shirt.
finger. What we're gonna do is, and you can almost just do this with water. They sell gums and other stuff, and there's other things you can put on the edge. But all we're doing is kind of wetting the edge. Just a little bit of water, a little bit of saddle soap, and then I'm just gonna take this little disc, this little slicker, and just kind of work it like so, and it'll go from kind of that sharp look to kind of a little bit of a glossy smooth look, and it just gives it this hand-hewn beautiful quality. And you're only going to do this once. This journal's going to last forever, so you might as well just take care of it, right? Do this
Exactly.
do this step up front.
I agree.
All right,
Talk us through the
so
fourth hole action.
yeah, so here's the deal. So the way that you finish this off, there's no knots. You backstitch, but for me, what I like to see is I like to see the top match the bottom in terms of the sort of the thread. So what I do is I start in the fourth hole, and you know, it could be the third or the fifth or whatever, it doesn't matter. So I put my thread through, and what we're going to do is we're going to work our way back to this edge, and then we're going to come back all the way around, so that when we get to the final back stitch, we're going to have, you know, our 3 or 4 back stitches here, and then our 3 or 4 back stitches here. You could start in this slot and then kind of work your way out doubling up, but then you have to explain what doubling up is, and I found it just to be easier just to go, all right, we're going to go through hole 4, and then we're going to go through hole 3 if we start at 1. So, all right, so I started 4th, I went through 3 from both sides. Now I'm going to go through 2 from both sides. So I go through one way, and then I go through the other. Now, one of the kind of main, I don't know, one of the only mistakes you can make on this, besides not following the directions, is not pulling tight enough. So when you've got your thread through each side, you know, you're trapping the leather there, and you want to pull it tight. This stuff's really strong. If you leave it slack, little loose, little bulging, it's going to catch on stuff, it's going to break down faster. So, you know, I urge you to just pull hard. Not so hard that you're, you know, biting into the leather in a way that's like ripping the leather, but hard. The other thing I see people do, you're cruising. You're going to try and beat me, aren't you?
No, I'm just getting a rhythm going here.
Yeah. This is the cool thing is once you get it, you could just sit in front of the tube, or you can do it around the other thing. One other thing to think about is if you're having trouble getting the needle through, like, don't do this. Don't like try and push through the table. Like that's not a good way to do it. You're gonna break the needle. You're gonna break the needle, and
Been there, done that.
yeah. So don't do that. If you're having trouble getting it through, see that?
And it doesn't happen as much once you get past that doubled up.
Right.
You know, the putting the whole compass discussion that we had, and the discussion of having some type of a sun compass built into this notebook cover that was going to be permanent. I think that really just kind of added the finishing touch to something that was already beautiful, but it just gave you an extra. I'm all about the multifunctionality of my kit. You know, I've always said I'll never carry anything that only has one purpose in my kit.
Oh, interesting.
And so this now has multiple functions. I mean, it's because it has measuring devices on it. It can be used for pawl mapping, for mapping yourself in an area that you're unfamiliar with, as long as you have.
Cool. So I finished the first step on this pocket. So first step is to sew these 2 in, and then I'm going to hand this over to you to sew the rest on. But before we move to that, we're just going to talk real quick about how to trim these. So we did our, we started at hole 4, and then, go back and then all the way around, and now he's here, and he's done his back stitch. And all we're gonna do is trim those. I just typically just use a razor blade, knife, whatever, to about 1/8 of an inch. So that's just a little tag. And then we're just gonna grab a lighter, and all we're gonna do is just melt that little tag. And we don't wanna scorch the leather or anything, so I just kinda hold it away. And then sometimes I'll just give it a little tap. And I'm gonna do that on both of these. And then we're gonna do the same thing on the back side. And that thing's just locked in there, it's never coming out. So that's that. Like I said, again, I've got these two sewn on, and that's for this little card pocket. And now where he's at is he's got this whole back cover sewed on. And so now he's gonna throw that guy on there. Stuff a lot. All right, you finished?
Well done, man.
All right. Cool. So did you burned
in the thread
Oh, you did.
and double back on the 4.
Nice. Cool. So I'm gonna finish this one quickly because I need to demonstrate this one last step, which is forming the pocket. So if you could show yours. He didn't form the pocket when he made his yesterday, and so his pocket's, it's sitting up a little bit.
This is mine, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
No,
That's
this one.
his.
This one's
No,
his.
this is yours.
Yeah, and
I
so
don't
this
know
is,
which
this
one.
one's the one that's been formed right here.
Yeah, so what we do is,
Okay.
after we saddle soap it and while it's wet, we've got a little plate that we stick on there and we put some weight on it. And what that does is it just gives it this kind of awesome flat look. So here we are again with our water, our saddle soap, and this is nice and wet. Just gonna work that in. We didn't do the step of burnishing the edges on this one, but we can come back and do that later. We've already demonstrated that. So you see how much water I've got going?
Yeah, quite a bit of suds and stuff going on.
Yeah, the suds are going, and I'm not rubbing particularly hard, I'm just kind of working it in evenly. And then you kind of look at these spots where you can see a little color variation, and now I've got a pretty consistent color going there now. Get this guy. I think that's probably gonna be all Shira, I think. So I'll get a little more soap, a little more water, get our interior pocket. You don't need to do the inside.
Yeah, the textured part.
Yeah, there's no sense of that in doing that. It would make it a little more supple, but there's no sense in it. I am gonna put a little bit behind the flap, this guy, and what I'm gonna do is just put a little water and saddle soap. I'm just gonna do the whole back side of this, because I don't want anything weird to happen in terms of one side like starting to curl or something. So I've just got that wet. I'm gonna fold this shut, snap it closed, and again with the water and the saddle soap, I'm really gonna get quite a bit on this edge here. I want that to be wet.
Because that's where you're gonna try to wet.
Yeah, that's what we're gonna wet form. So this little tool here, forming jig prototype. And all we do is get that wet, like we did, and you know what? Do this, just like,
Yeah, make that crease yourself.
yeah, just kind of work it with your hand a little bit. There we go, we got that. And then we're just gonna stick that on there. It has clearance for the button. Last one I did, I put a fire extinguisher on. First time I put some chemistry books that were my son's on, but whatever, just something heavy, leave it overnight and it'll dry out. And then it'll have this really flat feel.
All right, guys, so you saw what that takes and what is entailed in that. It's nothing that you can't do yourself very easily at home. I appreciate your views, and I appreciate your support. I thank you for everything you do for our school, for our family, for our business, all of our sponsors, instructors, affiliates, and friends. I'll be back with another video as soon as I can.